Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit south node conjunct one's natal Neptune. Now, we're talking about transits involving the south node in astrology. It could be about what we're going away from, leaving the past behind. Sometimes it could, what happens is in these transits as well, that the south node can impact the planet it hits in a detrimental way and bring out the very, very strong negative energy in connection with the planet. Now, it's like if you have this transit, this transit south node hitting one's Neptune, it might exacerbate some kind of deception or addiction. But at the positive note, when it makes the separating conjunction, when it separates South Node separates from Neptune, a lot of times though this can manifest in when something has been completed. If it was an addiction, it may be actually passing at this time. So these transits can be very significant because you figure you have like one of these every 18 or 19 years or so, and you might only get like 3 or 4 of these transits in a lifetime. So they are very significant. When you have these transits that don't occur frequently, they can be of a lot of importance. Now, this could be about some cases could manifest in going away from some dream or fantasy. Say if you have this in Sagittarius, it could be going away from a sports dream or a sports fantasy. If you were playing even fantasy football as an example, or you were involved in even doing some, it could be a lot of times career related. If it was in Sagittarius, if it's something where you would envision yourself being a sports athlete, it might be a time where you may be going away from it. Or if somebody already is an athlete and they're experiencing this transit, it could be a retirement period because they're going away from that dream. It could manifest going away from that dream, that fantasy of being that athlete. And the thing about it too is a positive part of this transit. It could also be about how one may go away from something that is overly unrealistic. And the thing is, if it's something that was, I mean, if you have it in your 10th house, it could be some kind of career-related venture, or even if it's in Capricorn, it could be because Capricorn is, of course, associated with the career and ambitions. And another thing too, if something Neptune is also very delusional energy, and if it's something where you're having this transit, it could manifest in going away from something where maybe you had deluded yourself to some degree and seen things really in a way where you put maybe people on a, it could be where you're putting something or someone on a pedestal, or being overly idealistic. Say if you have this in the 7th house, it could be in matters pertaining to a relationship, somebody where you may have been somewhat delusional in terms of attaining somebody as a first significant other. And what's good about this transit as well as beneficial is that it could be a reality wake-up call. It could be a time where you're actually distinguishing and differentiating fact from fallacy. And another thing too is going back to addictions. If you have Neptune and Scorpio, say, and you're experiencing this transit, it could be an addiction of a sexual nature. You might even be addicted to a shared resources situation. It could be about somebody that might be overly idealistic regarding what they're able to get from others, and that could be a time to be moving on and doing things more with your own resources. Remember, Scorpio is the sign of shared resources. Now, another thing too, in some cases it could be about going away from some issue with the toes, with the feet. It could be something with the lymphatic system, just general weakness or lethargy. And it could sometimes, sadly, it may exacerbate that issue, but when it's applying conjunction in transit, it may do that. But I would say when it's separating, that could be a time of at least alleviation. Doesn't mean those issues may go away completely. If it's something chronic generally is going, I would say that stays with you. You know, basically it may stay with you your whole life. But anyway, and if it's a time too where you could be going away from something, as far as being overly lethargic or some kind of weakness in general. Uh, and another thing would this is also, going back as an example. I mean, let's say that you have a transit south node making a conjunction to your natal Neptune in Sagittarius. Again, it could be going away from something like, a dream or a fantasy connected with sports. It could be something with foreign travel or the outdoors or exploration. Say if you have it in your 4th house in your chart and you have this transit hitting your natal Neptune in Sagittarius, it could be a time where maybe it's about going away from, maybe meandering, drifting around from place to place, or living outdoors, even as far as your home life goes. It could be, and again, when you have this transit, when it's making the applying conjunction, that could still be a time where you're at least in the, I call it the contemplative state, maybe of going away from something. But the actual time when you're going away, I would say, is more when it actually makes the separating conjunction aspect. Doesn't mean that couldn't happen when it's applying, because that still means could be about going. It's still the general aspect could be about going away from something. But I think when you have the transit, when it's separating in this example from Neptune, as far as the conjunction goes, that could be where you really say, okay, I'm definitely putting this to rest. These things that might have negative things that were associated with Neptune. And Neptune is also about flooding, and if you're experiencing something, again, going back to the Neptune, the transit hitting your Neptune 4th house example, it could be going away from some flooding condition in the home. And it could be, like say, if you have this in the 7th house, it could be going away from, say, figuratively speaking, drowning, somebody drowning you, maybe a significant other with their problems, for example. Now, another example I thought was interesting, I look back at it, sad too. Some of you may have remembered Tyler Trent, those sports fans out there that see this video. And he was somebody that was basically, he was I think he was a Purdue fan in college football. And on January 1st, 2019, he died of bone cancer. Interestingly enough, at the time, he had transit south node had recently made a separating conjunction from his natal Neptune in Capricorn. Now, it may have been past the conjunction stage based on the orbs that are used, but it still is very close. It may have been around 3 degrees from his natal Neptune. And this was what that, I think, in a way, I mean, maybe this manifested in his case, it was going away from, which is a south node, from dissolving deterioration, which could be Neptune, of the bones. And the bones, of course, is associated with Capricorn. He also had it, his natal Neptune, at 29 degrees, which is a critical crisis degree. And it's also, I think he had it retrograde as well, so that did not help matters. And this is something too, I mean, when we have this transit, another thing about having a transit south node conjoin one's natal Neptune, it also manifests in having a greater conception of what is real and what isn't. Again, differentiating fact from fallacy, what's fallacious and what's true. And the thing about it is, it's going away from unreality. If somebody's in the dream world or they got their heads in the clouds, this is the time when they can remove the head from the clouds, see things the way they actually are, It may result or manifest sometimes in some kind of deception being unveiled if there was a duplicitous partner. Say you have this like in the fifth house or the seventh house. Fifth house is about love and romance. Seventh house is connected with the significant other, a marriage partner. And this could be a time where if there's somebody that was acting duplicitous or deceptive, and you weren't really cognizant of it, this could be the time when those kind of things can come to an end, and it makes you more aware of it, because it could be about something deceptive and duplicitous coming to an end, reaching a completion and culmination. Now, another thing too, it could be in some cases the ending of some figurative or some kind of real imprisonment coming out of solitude, seclusion, isolation, whether it might be a self-imprisonment, whether it was imposed upon yourself or somebody that had a prison sentence. This could be that time for many where this could actually come to a completion at this time. And if it's a time like, say, because Neptune is associated with isolation, imprisonment, incarceration. If you're somebody, that's been really, avoiding society and reclusive, and this could be that time where you escape from that reclusive energy, escaping from escapism. And sometimes it could be about getting away from some kind of drugs and alcoholism as a means of escape. Now, another thing too is that talk about one example I thought was interesting is that Khloe Kardashian had revealed in October of 2020 that she had a battle with coronavirus, COVID-19. Now, my understanding is, unless I missed it, and I don't know what the date was. I did not, when I was watching like the video or whatever it was, the blog on this, I did not see anything where she actually unveiled or revealed the date when this happened. So I'm sure, it was obviously had to be in 2020, because this thing became prevalent. It started to become prevalent in the United States when it hit January, February of 2020. But my guess is, based on the chart, is that this was something that may have hit around May 6, 2020 with her, because at that time transit South Node made the exact conjunction to her natal Neptune. Neptune can be about diseases. This could be in the South Node, sometimes can exacerbate issues. It may have been very intense at this time, at least, but again, this is speculation. I don't know when this date happened, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was around this time where she was feeling this very intensely. She also stated she had some kind of very, she stated before that she had some kind of chronic or migraine, headache issues, but she said this was like really wild or something. And interestingly enough, on that date, on May 6, 2020, she had transit Mars, making a very tight conjunction to her natal ascendant. And Mars, of course, could be associated with headaches. It was in Aquarius, so it might have been one of a very unusual kind. It might have been coming very, sporadically. And anyway, that's pretty much what, but that's just a guess as when she might have had this in, in a very intense way, when this might have really hit that point where it was intensified and amplified. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.